Millionaire sees homeless boy dancing with his paralyzed daughter. What happens next is shocking. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the bustling city. On the corner of Maple Street, amidst the chaos and rush, an extraordinary scene unfolded. A homeless boy, only 12, danced with a joy that was contagious. His ragged clothes billowed like flags in the wind, each movement a declaration of resilience. Just a few feet away, a wealthy businessman, suit crisp and a briefcase in hand, paused in his tracks. His chest tightened, a lump forming in his throat as he spotted something truly breathtaking, his own paralyzed daughter, seated in her wheelchair, eyes wide with wonder. They were worlds apart yet, at that moment, the boy's rhythm touched her heart like nothing else could. The crowd around them seemed to melt away, voices hushed by the magnetic energy of the scene. Children laughed, and adults whispered, amazed by the sight of a boy who had nothing giving everything through the power of dance. It felt like magic, a story woven together by fate. But why was he dancing? What drove this young boy to perform so passionately, even knowing the odds stacked against him? As the melody of an unseen street performer echoed through the air, the boy spun and twirled, his bare feet gliding over the pavement. The millionaire watched, transfixed, as his daughter's face transformed. A smile broke free, transforming her once somber expression into pure joy. It was a fleeting moment, alive with possibility, and yet, it left an ache deep in the millionaire's gut. Why was it that a boy, homeless and without comfort, could reach into the depths of his daughter's spirit? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With the last note hanging in the air, the boy leaped into the air. Time seemed to stop. And then, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, the millionaire approached. He could feel rapid heartbeats, the warmth of sweat at the nape of his neck. What was he about to do? Did he want to change this boy's life? Or was he there to take something away, a moment too sensitive to shatter? As he bent down to speak, the crowd leaned in. An electric anticipation filled the space around them. Would he offer a helping hand or a heavy heart? The crowd held its breath. The millionaire knelt beside the boy, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the ragged fabric that hung loosely on the child's frame. It was as if he were crossing the chasm between their worlds, one filled with luxury and privilege, the other shadowed in hardship and survival. Kid, the businessman's voice trembled slightly, infused with emotion. That was incredible. He searched the boy's eyes for a flicker of understanding, a glimmer of hope. The city noise faded to a faint hum, the only sounds that remained were the rapid beats of hearts in the gathering crowd. The boy, panting lightly from his performance, looked up with a shy smile. "Thanks, mister. I just wanted to make her happy." He motioned to the millionaire's daughter, who sat wide-eyed, her fingers tapping the wheel of her chair to the leftover rhythm of the dance. As the boy turned back to his audience, a fleeting look of sorrow danced across his face, quickly replaced by the bright spark of determination. There was a flicker in his eyes, a resolve to keep going, to not let the world written for him define his spirit. But the millionaire caught that hint of fragility, and it drew his heart closer to the boy's plight. "Tell me your name," the businessman urged, his voice softer now, a gentle invitation. "Leo," came the reply, so simple yet packed with layers of a story untold. As the millionaire repeated the name in his mind, something stirred in him, a deep longing to explore this connection, a bond that could deviate from the course set by his life of excess and solitude. But just then, a shout sliced through the moment, snapping everyone back to the reality of the street. "Hey! You can't be here!" A uniformed officer strode toward them, a stern look etched across his face. The crowd parted, and apprehension filled the air as people who had been captivated now pulled back, as if the enchantment had been broken. The millionaire's heart raced. "Wait!" he called out. "He's just dancing. Can't you see? Doesn't he matter? He's not allowed to be here," the officer barked, his tone leaving no room for debate. He reached for Leo, but the boy danced back, quick and nimble, evading the outstretched hand. Leo's eyes widened with a mix of fear and defiance, reflecting the deep-seated strength he had hidden beneath his fragile exterior. The millionaire felt a primal urge to protect him. "Stop! You can't do this." The words escaped before he could second-guess himself. The gravity of the situation collided with his desire to act. "Sir, stay out of this," the officer barked, now focusing on the businessmen. The crowd was tense, a collective gasp echoing as they felt the shift from a moment of joy to one of confrontation, and emotions bubbled over. Whispers circulated. Who is he? Is he really going to help? The millionaire's mind raced. What would happen next? Would he stand up and fight for this boy, this brief encounter that had stirred something deep within him? Leo watched, worry flickering in his eyes, and suddenly, the stakes were painfully clear. The officer advanced again, but Leo, full of fire, shot back, "I'm staying. I have a right to be here." His voice trembled but held a fierce intensity. What followed would prove to be a turning point, one that could change everything. Would the millionaire find the courage to step up against the man in uniform? Would he risk his own reputation for the boy who had captured his daughter's heart? As Leo glanced toward the millionaire, a palpable tension hung heavy in the air, and everyone knew that something monumental was about to unfold. But just as the officer moved closer, a deafening crash echoed down the street, drawing every eye, a distraction so sudden that it felt almost orchestrated. What was happening now? Would this unexpected turmoil further entangle their fates, or would it lead to a new path altogether? The crash resonated like thunder through the crowd. Heads snapped toward the source. A fiery plume erupted from a nearby alley, smoke curling like a serpent into the air. Screams followed the violent explosion, slicing through the tense atmosphere like glass shattering. The officer froze, torn between his duty to grab Leo and the sudden chaos that demanded his attention. Citizens scrambled, instinctively seeking cover. Faces twisted in shock, some turned to each other with wide eyes, their mouths agape in disbelief. "Everyone, stay back!" The officer shouted, his authority momentarily regained as he took a few cautious steps toward the fire, breathing into the daylight. But the million-dollar moment had shattered. The audience that once cherished Leo's dance now faced a nightmare unfolding. "Leo!" The millionaire's voice cut through the panic. "Get away from there!" He extended an arm, desperation gripping him like a vice. This was more than just an act of defiance. He felt the pull of fate shuddering with unyielding intensity in his chest. But the boy wouldn't move. Anchored by his own spirit, Leo's eyes flickered between the blazing fire and the chaos engulfing the street. Like a moth to the flame, he was drawn in. "I have to help." "No!" The millionaire lunged forward, but the crowd's panic was overwhelming. People pushed against each other, shoving him backward as if they were fleeing from a monster. Fear hung thick in the air, curling around his throat. Just moments ago, everything felt right, but with the crash, the world around him had twisted into something dangerous and unknown. From the shadows of the alleyway, figures began emerging. Some stumbled, dazed, while others moved with alarming purpose. The millionaire caught a glimpse of a woman dragging a child, her face streaked with dirt and anguish, desperation in her eyes. "Help us. Please." The urgency in her voice pulled him closer, awakening a deeper instinct within him. How many times had he turned a blind eye? How often had he forgotten the people fighting unseen battles right outside his gilded life? "Leo, please!" he shouted again. The boy was still defiant, a wild spirit trapped beneath circumstances too heavy for anyone to bear. The moment hung precarious, hearts pounding, as Leo's gaze collided with his. In that single gaze, the connection intensified. The boy saw the flicker of resolve burned deep inside the businessman. Around them, chaos raged. The officer had abandoned protocol, rushing toward cries for help, drawing away attention from Leo. "This is our moment," Leo seemed to say silently, rallying his own inner strength, stepping toward the flames. The millionaire's heart raced as he realized what was at stake. What if Leo rushed in, only to be consumed by tragedy? Instinct screamed at the millionaire to act. He had to make a choice between preserving his own safety or stepping forward into the unknown. The thought of his daughter weighed heavily on him, but it was Leo's determination that anchored him in place. By now, the crowd was thickening, a choking wave of bodies grappling with panic or consumed by curiosity. With each passing second, the potential for disaster surged, and the distance between safety and destruction crumbled. Suddenly, from the fire, a distinct sound pierced the air. A child's cry echoed, laced with terror and pain. Just as Leo started to back away, a group of flames hurled themselves toward the street, igniting chaos all over again. In that pivotal moment, the millionaire made a decision. "I will not let anyone else suffer." His voice rang out, pulling Leo back from the brink and urging him forward. They needed to work together. This was their chance to bridge the gap between worlds separated by more than just wealth. But as the flames raged brighter, another chilling reality rapidly unfolded. Who was truly behind the blast? The crowd pulsated with escalating panic, retreating into the shadows, oblivious to the rising threat hidden among them. What danger waited, lurking in the chaos? Would they be able to pull back from the brink, or would this moment spiral out of control, intertwining their fates in ways they never imagined? Leo's gaze locked with the millionaire's, determination bursting forth like the flames behind him. "We have to go." His voice was fierce, woven with urgency despite the fear wrapping around him like smoke. Uncertainty weighed heavy, but the trembling resolve in the boy's eyes sparked something in the millionaire he thought he'd buried long ago. The officer was now at the mouth of the alley, barking commands as panic spread through the crowd. People shoved against one another, desperate to escape the choking heat and blinding smoke. "We need to evacuate. Now!" he yelled, his face etched with grim resolve. Another cry, a child's cry, echoed from deeper within the flames, drawing both Leo and the millionaire toward it. The heat lashed at their faces, but neither could turn away. What if that were his daughter, trapped in the inferno? The thought churned the millionaire's stomach. "Stay behind me," he ordered Leo, a spark of leadership igniting in him. Then, with a quick glance around, he spotted the woman with the child. She was struggling, her arms trembling, but gripped tightly around a small figure, a girl, no more than 6 years old, her eyes wide with fear. "Help us!" the woman screamed, her voice raw with emotion. "Please!" The billionaire's heart raced. That familiar responsibility flickered again, but this was no boardroom, it was chaos incarnate. The flames danced, wild and ravenous, hungry for anything they could consume. The cries intensified around them, creating a symphony of terror, and time stretched achingly long. Leo took a step forward, and the millionaire felt it, an electric bond forming between them both. Together, he whispered, though whether it was to Leo or himself, he couldn't tell. "Follow me." With one swift motion, he plunged into the fray, leading the way toward the fiery maw. Each step felt like a lifetime, the heat lapping at them as the smoke stung their eyes. Leo's small form followed closely, the duo now tethered by a shared purpose, a desperate hope. The girl's cries grew louder, a desperate melody in the chaos. The woman tugged the child closer, fumbling backward, nearly dropping her. "Help! Get back, get back!" The officer, now recovering his focus, pushed through the crowd, trying to direct the evacuation while keeping the blaze in check. But with so much panic brewing, his words were lost. "Almost there," the millionaire urged, ire flickering beneath his skin. They could reach her. He could see them. Just a few more steps, but a sudden explosion sent debris flying, clouds of ash and flames erupting from the alleyway. Instinct took over. The millionaire grabbed Leo, pulling him low against the ground. Time froze as they hit the pavement. The shockwave rolled through the street, scattering people like leaves in a storm. In that horrifying moment, he could feel Leo pressed against him, a bundle of youthful bravery and unyielding spirit. "Get the girl!" Leo yelled, voice ringing through the clamor. "Get out!" the officer shouted, turning back to the masses. "Now!" The smoke thickened, and through it, the millionaire caught a glimpse of the child and her mother, silhouetted against the flames. They were almost there, so close yet so impossibly far, but what was that? A figure lurking in the shadows? Someone at the edge of the crowd, eyes glinting with chilling purpose, watching, waiting. Fear coursed through the millionaire's veins. Who were they, and what sinister force had set this twisted trap? He felt Leo tug at his sleeve. "We have to save them." But suddenly, another sharp sound silenced the crowd. Shouts morphed into screams, panic shifted to paralyzing dread. Leo's eyes widened in horror as realization struck. Look! What lay ahead was not just danger but something much darker. Could they truly save those in peril, or was this all part of a greater web, waiting to ensnare them all? As the billionaire struggled to make sense of it, figures began closing in from all sides. The scene was unraveling, tension swirled thick as fear gripped the crowd once more. What had started as an act of bravery was spiraling into a nightmare. Who would stand against them? What had they awoken in the depths of this chaos? The path ahead was shadowed in uncertainty, but one thing was certain: the game had changed. The real fight was just beginning. The millionaire's heart raced, a cacophony of fear and resolve playing in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was stalking them from the shadows was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The figures encroached, moving slowly, deliberately. Each heartbeat felt louder than the chaos around him. He could hear the flames crackling, an insatiable monster licking at its prey, growing ever closer. Leo tugged at his sleeve again, desperation igniting his voice. "We can't just leave them. They need us. We won't leave them. Not now." The millionaire's words were fierce, but doubt gnawed at him. If they stepped further into the flames, would they become trapped, too? The smoke swirled around them, curling through the streets like a living serpent, tightening its grip on the masses trying to escape. Each breath felt sharp with ash, each moment stretched impossibly long. The screams echoed in his ears, morphing into a nightmarish chorus. Who were these shadowy figures? He glanced back at the woman and child. They were still there, barely visible but present amidst the madness. "Get the girl!" Leo shouted again, courage shining boldly in his young eyes. That raw determination stirred something deep within the millionaire, something nearly extinguished. Then, without warning, the glowing canvas of chaos shifted. Smoke parted just enough for him to see a group of figures suddenly emerge, black silhouettes against the blistering backdrop. The realization hit like a punch to the gut: they were not merely part of the throng, but something else entirely. Organized. Intent. "Leo, stay close." The millionaire steadied his grip on the boy, pulling him back. He scanned the area, looking for an escape route, trying to gauge the crowd while the heat pummeled him relentlessly. "Run!" A shout came from the officer, panic spilling from his lips as the cloaked figures advanced. He saw the officer struggle against the rush of terrified people, trying desperately to maintain control. "Get out now. This is not a drill." There was a sudden boom, too close, rattling the earth beneath them. One of the shadowed figures flared a fist, sending something explosive hurtling toward the remnants of the structure behind them. The impact detonated with a deafening roar, unleashing a flurry of debris that rained down, dispersing all thoughts of escape. "Leo!" The millionaire couldn't see him amidst the panicked bodies. "Leo!" He shouted again, the name clawing at his throat like claws. He felt like a terrified father already weighed down by helplessness. Then, from a sea of bodies, he caught a glimpse of Leo, a small figure weaving through the chaos. I'm going to save her. Leo's voice rang out, bright yet determined as he darted toward the mother and child. Leo, wait. Panic shot through the millionaire like icy water. But Leo was gone, disappearing into the tumult. Instinct screamed, he dove in after him, his heart thudding. The roaring flames closed in, smoke twisting around him like a taunting embrace. Every instinct urged him to retreat, to turn and tell Leo to come back, but the boy's bravery ignited something deep within. He plunged deeper into the nightmare, each step thousands of burning coals against the soles of his shoe. The familiar weight of responsibility surged again, intertwining with fear. But where was Leo? Where was that brave voice that had called to him, pulling him into this inferno? The shouts faded, and all he could hear was the ominous murmur of those shadowed figures drawing closer, their eyes glinting with a predatory hunger. Would they emerge from the smoke only to claim Leo? Just as an unbearable fear sifted through his heart, he saw Leo reach the woman, hand outstretched toward the trembling child, then, the shadows lunged. No! The word tore from the millionaire's lips, raw and instinctual, merging with the cacophony of destruction. He charged forward, but before he could take another step, darkness swallowed the scene, a relentless tide threatening to drown them all in its depths. What had begun as a fight to save lives was spiraling now into something unthinkable, and ahead lay a choice that could change everything. Could he save Leo? Would he uncover the shadow's true intention? The ground shook beneath him, and time stood still. A haunting realization gripped him: they were not the only ones in danger. The real battle had only just begun. The darkness was thick, swirling around him like a living thing. The millionaire strained his eyes against the smoke, heart hammering. He couldn't let it end like this, not here, not now. He pushed through the press of bodies, their terror palpable. Faces twisted in fear flashed before him, but he had no time to register their anguish. His focus remained fixed on the slender form of Leo, now framed against the flickering inferno behind him, just enough light to see the realization dawning in his eyes as he reached for the woman. Leo! The millionaire's voice came out nearly as a sob, full of desperation. But the boy didn't turn. He was there, so close, and yet, every frantic step felt like a lifetime. Out of the swirling chaos, the cloaked figures advanced, unyielding. Their movements were predatory, polished, as if rehearsed. The millionaire felt a chill creep along his spine. This was not random chaos but a well-orchestrated act of terror. They weren't just hunting, they were hunting for something or someone. The silhouette of the mother wavered, the luminescent glow of the flames dancing over her face. She looked at Leo, a fierce protectiveness sparking in her eyes. If only he could close those last few feet. Just a little closer, just a little. The shadows closed in. With every inch, the flicker of Leo's courage dimmed against the encroaching darkness. The millionaire surged forward, fueled by instinct and an unfathomable resolve. Stay away from him! He roared, rage erupting from within. A large figure turned, the reflection of the flames casting a ghastly light on its face. The eyes glinted, full of malice and intent. The millionaire's stomach dropped. What did they want? Leo! He was almost there. Just a few more steps. The world around him shrank, a blur of fire and noise. Sweat dripped from his brow, each drop a reminder of what was at stake. Then, the ground trembled beneath him. Another explosion rattled the air, a dreadful reminder of the chaos reigning around them. He staggered, eyes wide in horror. Flaming debris rained down like wrathful meteors, but he couldn't afford to think about that. He surged forward again, breath coming in ragged gasps, determined to wrap his arms around Leo. Get down! He yelled, instinctively throwing himself towards the boy. In that split second, a shadow lunged toward the child. It was swift, predatory. The millionaire's heart seized. The very essence of time seemed to fracture. No! He dove, a desperate leap. The world narrowed to the weight of consequence. Would he save Leo or be too late? He hit the ground, rolling into position, his body colliding with Leo just as the shadows swept over them like a dark wave. The impact knocked the wind from him, but he could feel Leo's small form pressed against him. Safe for now, the cloaked figures paused, their interests piqued. They didn't expect this kind of defense. A moment of stillness washed over the raging chaos, a standoff in the eye of destruction. Leave him alone. The woman's voice cut through the noise, fierce and unwavering. This drew their attention. In the distance, the last flickers of hope seemed to fade. The shadows turned their gaze toward her. A chilling realization struck the millionaire: they weren't just drawn to Leo, they sought the whole family. Why? He breathed, frustration mingling with fear. What did they want? What do you want? He shouted, directing the question toward the figures, but they only stood there, calculating. Leo began to tremble, trembling against him. The millionaire tightened his grip, a shield against the darkness. The flames were flickering dangerously close now, threatening to engulf them all. Then a shout echoed through the panic, the officer, waving a baton, cutting against the tide of chaos. Form a line. Protect them. His fierce determination reignited a spark of hope. But was it enough to fend off the shadows? The millionaire squeezed his eyes shut, heart racing. He had to keep Leo safe, even if it meant confronting that darkness. Suddenly, a new sound pierced the air, a sinister rumble, a warning or a promise? He opened his eyes. The shadows were moving again, and the ground shook beneath him. Get ready. The words hung in the air like a countdown, building an urgency that quickened their hearts. What did they truly want? Would he be able to protect Leo and the woman and her child amid all that chaos? The lines blurred between bravery and fear. As the cloaked figures advanced, something else flickered in the chaos, a glint of metal that sent adrenaline surging through his veins. They were running out of time. The shadows lunged forward, and the air crackled with a tension that felt almost electric. The millionaire instinctively tightened his grip on Leo, dragging him close. The flames warped the space around them, casting grotesque shadows that twisted with fury. How had it come to this? Everything had spiraled so out of control in mere moments. Stay back. He shouted, his voice hoarse, desperate. But the figures were undeterred, their faces obscured by hoods, revealing nothing but anger and malevolence. Their presence was suffocating. Leo whimpered softly, a sound that knifed through him. It's okay, Leo. It's going to be okay, he lied, even as doubt settled heavy in his chest. The officer's determination was a flicker against the prominent threat, and somewhere amidst the chaos, the world outside their tumultuous bubble faded into a distant whisper. The cloaked figures fanned out, a dark wave moving as one. The woman, Leo's mother, stood firm, defiant as she clutched her child's hand. If you want him, you'll have to go through me. She yelled, and a protective fierceness glimmered in her eyes. Please, the millionaire breathed, glancing over at her. What could she do against the storm closing in? A pang of urgency ripped through him. They needed a plan. A way out. Without thinking, he shifted his focus from those figures to the growing storm of flames behind them, its heat licking at their backs. If they didn't move, they would be engulfed. Follow me. He yanked Leo up, standing resolute against the encroaching shadows. We have to run. He grabbed the woman's arm, squeezing it, hoping to convey the sincerity of their moment. In a heartbeat, she nodded. Together, they took off, bolting sideways through the chaos. The officer trailed behind, a shield against the dark figures that writhed closer. As they twisted and turned, each footfall seemed a blasphemy against the horror surrounding them. The smoke clawed at their throats while the deafening sound of destruction filled the air. The flickers of flame acted as a cruel stage, lighting the heinous drama unfolding. With every step, they fought against despair, against the pull of fear that crawled underneath their skin. Suddenly, one of the figures lunged, grabbing the woman by the sleeve. You can't escape. The voice was shrouded in menace. No. The millionaire whipped around, instincts firing. He swung his arm to push the figure away, but this only drew the attention of the rest. Shadows converged, fast and terrifying. Keep going. He managed to shout, panic surging. Leo's eyes widened, and he glanced upward, his face full of uncertainty. But the lady held firm, her spirit unyielding as she kicked out, breaking free at the last moment. Run! She shouted, her voice a blaze of resolve. With that, the group sprinted forward, ducking into a nearby alley, pursued by an echo of furious shouts. The shadows followed, relentless and insatiable. Just as they turned the corner, the ground erupted behind them, a deafening explosion that rattled the very air they breathed. The alley lit up, illuminating their desperate escape. The millionaire faltered, heart sinking, and turned back. Keep moving. We have to, but the scene before them froze him in place, terror painted vividly across his face. The shadows, glaring and predatory, were no longer just figments of fear, they were closing in, and their strength was even more palpable than before. Why do you want him? He yelled, voice breaking, but there was no answer, only the racer's pulse of danger surrounding them. As they disappeared into the maze of back streets, the million-dollar question burned bright in his mind. What was it the dark figures truly sought? In the distance, sirens wailed, but even those seemed distant, an echo against the fierce storm of chaos. They could be saved, but at what cost? The world narrowed down, time felt suspended, brimming with uncertainty. They were running, but where could they hide from such relentless pursuers? With the shadows chasing, something unnatural flickered in the distance that ignited a spark of terror, the glint of metal once more. It winked in and out of view against the blinding inferno, promising danger yet again. What had they walked into? Keep going. The millionaire pushed everyone forward. But as their breaths grew shallow, dread curled its fingers around his heart. What awaited them at the end of this darkened road? Would they find safety or simply lead the shadows directly to what they sought? The truth loomed like an impending storm, ready to break. The alley twisted and turned, a narrow tunnel of desperation, but the pounding of their hearts echoed louder than the chaos behind them. The millionaire led the charge, his hands firm around Leo and the woman's wrist. The weight of the world hung on their escape, every breath filled with smoke and fear. Behind them, the footsteps of their pursuers thundered like a war drum, relentless and unforgiving. Instinctively, the millionaire glanced over his shoulder, catching the fleeting shadows that darted closer. The urgency of self-preservation coursed through him, the realization that panic could mean their ruin. Left. We need to head left. He barked, pointing toward a dimly lit passageway that promised a chance of concealment. The woman nodded, determination carved deep into her features. Let us move. They sprinted into the darkness, pressuring themselves deeper into the looming unknown. Leo clutched her hand tightly, his small body trembling against the tyranny of fear. The passage narrowed, brick walls closing in like the grip of fate. Suddenly, another explosion thundered nearby, the ground beneath them shuddering. Dust plumed from above, cascading down like a curtain of shadows, momentarily blinding them. Don't stop. Keep pushing. The millionaire's voice cut through the chaos, fierce and raw. Each word fueled a fire in their souls. As the dust settled, they stumbled onto an open street, the skyline stark against the chaos, just a few streets away from their intended sanctuary. But the figures were undeterred, they had also emerged, now coiling around the far end of the street. Go. We can make it. With renewed urgency, he pointed toward a crowd gathering ahead. People were milling about, unaware of the tempest they were trying to flee. Their cries of terror pushed through him like barbed wire, stinging and relentless, but just as they took a step toward salvation, a shout echoed. There they are. Stop them. The figures lunged into the fray, breaking toward the crowd. The millionaire's stomach sank. No, this can't happen. He pushed forward, knowing they had to warn the people, to make them understand the danger. Run. "They're coming for you," he shouted, desperation laden in each word. The crowd froze, confusion etched on their faces, eyes darting from the fleeing trio to the shadows closing in. That moment, time fragmented. The flicker of fear ignited into panic, unspooling the tension like a taut rope about to snap. The street erupted. People scattered, shoving and trampling over one another, those in the back trying to understand the chaos ahead while those in front simply fought to escape. "Leo! Stay close!" The millionaire grabbed the boy, yanking him back just as a figure lunged past them, bearing its shadowy threat. "Mom!" Leo cried, pointing to where his mother had gotten momentarily caught up as the crowd surged. Her face twisted with determination, she fought her way through the throng, eyes fierce, never losing sight of her son. The millionaire's breath drew tight like a noose. "Get behind me," he ordered, stepping to shield Leo, adrenaline flooding his veins. But before he could act, another figure sprang from the crowd, diving toward them. The world spun, a flash of silver slicing through the smoke. It was the glint of metal he'd glimpsed earlier. A knife glimmered, held by a cloaked figure with unyielding purpose. "No!" he shouted, instinctively moving to shield Leo, but in the chaos, it was hard to know who to protect. With one swift motion, he launched himself at the looming threat. The shadows seemed to hesitate, flickering against the raw chaos, as he charged toward them. Time slowed, adrenaline blurring the edges of reality. Around him, colors distorted, and all that existed was this single moment of confrontation. What would happen when he reached them? Would he prove strong enough to hold the line against the tide of darkness? The answer loomed over him like a thundercloud as he grappled with the figures. He couldn't shake the sinking feeling that perhaps their greatest danger was yet to come. The clash was electric. The millionaire's heart raced as a low growl erupted from the cloaked figure, the knife now firmly aimed at his chest. He could see the desperate glint in those shadowed eyes, a frantic rage that mirrored his own. This foe was relentless. He could feel the danger curling around him like a viper. "Step back!" the millionaire shouted, thrusting himself forward without a second thought, blocking Leo's view of the blade. Hidden among the mayhem of the crowd, uncertainty surged through him. Would his sacrifice be enough? But the cloaked figure lunged with a primal roar, and with every ounce of strength, the millionaire caught the wrist holding the knife, twisting hard. The blade nearly slipped free, but he held on, adrenaline pouring through him. Sweat dripped as their eyes locked, a silent warfare unfolding in that heartbeat. "Help!" A cry yanked his attention away. The woman was grappling with a second figure, desperately trying to push through the crowd that parted like a curtain of chaos. It was a wild, desperate scene, petrified faces, screams blending into a horrid symphony of survival. "Leo, stay down!" he shouted, noticing that the boy had instinctively crouched behind him, small and vulnerable. Panic surged anew as he caught sight of the surreal tableau. The very world they were fighting to escape darted by with blaring sirens and flashes of red and blue, all swirling against the darkness that encroached on them. With one final heave, he slammed the cloaked figure to the ground. The knife clattered away, the moment teetering on a razor's edge before it slipped into the void of the crowd's frenzy. "Run!" he bellowed to the woman, his throat hoarse with fear. She nodded, her determination unwavering even as chaos spiraled fierce around them. "Mom!" Leo called out again, his voice cracking beneath the weight of terror. The millionaire felt the boy's small hand grip his leg tight. "We got to find her." With a quick glance, he spotted her fighting against the tide of people, moving toward them with singular focus. A flicker of hope ignited in his chest, a whisper of relief as she broke free, eyes locking onto her son's face. But the shadows remained undeterred, and the cloaked figure was scrambling back to his feet, fury etched across twisted features. "Go!" he screamed, urgency replacing every ounce of uncertainty. The woman surged forward, grabbing Leo's hand as they rushed to cross the street. The millionaire darted after them, heart pounding as he desperately sought to create a barrier between their family and the threat behind them. Adrenaline surged, but just as they made it to safety, the sound of a gunshot rang out, reverberating through the chaos. Time froze, the crowd faltered for a split second, and a collective gasp swallowed the air. "Keep moving." The millionaire pushed them forward, but his eyes were wide as he spun to locate the source of the gunfire. A new figure emerged from the alley, the gleam of a weapon shining in the flickering streetlights. "Don't look back," he urged, but dread gnawed at him. They were no longer just fleeing shadowy figures, they were now prey to something darker, something that meant to hunt them down. "We have to get to the car," the woman shouted over the noise, the fear clawing at her voice. "Where is it?" The millionaire's mind raced, torn between the looming threat and the safety they desperately needed to reach. "You know the parking garage this way." She pointed, every ounce of strength pooling into her voice as they desperately pushed ahead. But the echo of gunfire chased them down. Every step away from the chaos felt like a pulse of impending doom. Would they find sanctuary, or was fate closing in around them, the walls within which they sought protection collapsing, piece by piece? As they neared the entrance of the garage, the shadows thickened, too close for comfort. The millionaire felt it, the chill creeping up his spine. Whatever hunted them had not lost interest. They were still being followed, and the worst part was yet to come faster. He urged, pushing them onward with the weight of their lives now resting squarely on his shoulders. Just as they reached the sliding doors, a figure stepped into the view ahead, the world around the opening narrowing between him and their escape. "Get ready," he shouted, but as his heart pounded against the blood rushing in his ears, a realization hit him like a brick. He had no idea who, or what, was waiting for them behind those doors. The millionaire's heart raced, each pulse a looming reminder of the danger edging ever closer. The shadows gathered behind him, a vicious reminder that their lives depended on every heartbeat. He pushed open the door, its steel frame meeting them with a heavy sigh, revealing the dimly lit expanse of the parking garage. It was a sanctuary that felt like a tomb, the air thick with tension. Inside. "Now!" he shouted, urgency clawing at his throat. The mother, Leo, and he slipped through, the door swinging shut behind them. But as they entered, a sense of foreboding enveloped them. The hum of distant engines and flickering lights barely masked the impending dread. "Stay close," he urged, scanning the shadows for their next move. Every minute seemed to stretch painfully, fear creeping relentlessly under their skin. The echoes of the street factions rising outside only heightened the feeling of being trapped. "Where to?" the woman asked, her eyes darting to the farthest corners of the garage. "That way." He pointed to a cluster of cars, their glossy paint barely visible in the dim light. A flicker of hope ignited, his car was just ahead. "We need to get to my car. Quick." They sprinted toward it, but the cries of chaos overhead twisted into something more sinister in the hollow space. The shadows lurked closer, hungry and relentless. Leo's voice trembled. "What if they find us?" "We won't let that happen." The millionaire's determination surged, but even as he spoke, the shadows prowled, whispers of malevolence flickering in his mind. He gripped the weapon in his jacket, an uncomfortable weight, and he knew they had to take action. As they reached the car, his fingers stuttered over the door handle, then froze. "Wait." He held a finger to his lips, silencing the moment. The unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed through the garage, drawing closer, deliberate and predatory. "Get in, now," he hissed. The woman pushed Leo into the back seat and jumped in beside him. The millionaire slid into the driver's seat, fumbling with the keys, adrenaline making each movement clumsier than the last. "Start," he murmured to the universe, jabbing the ignition. The engine roared to life, an angry growl that felt fragile against the encroaching danger, but before he could put the car in gear, the shadows pressed closer, silhouettes melding into the darkness. "They're here," he shouted, fear blossoming into sheer panic. The woman clutched Leo, heart pounding visibly in her chest. "Do something." He slammed the car into drive, tires screeching as he yanked the wheel sharply. The car lurched, the headlights slicing through the darkness, illuminating the menacing forms just beyond the glass. "Hold on." He slammed down on the accelerator, tearing toward the garage entrance. The shadows lunged toward the car, but he felt the brakes squeal beneath him as they blurred past. The figures in the headlights flashed, a ballet of despair and desperation, desperate eyes meeting theirs for just a fleeting moment. As they burst out into the open air, the cacophony of sirens filled the world around them. The streets were alive with people now, the chaos of earlier giving way to desperate safety measures. The pursuit had been momentarily forgotten, drowned in the adrenaline-fueled escape, but that's when he saw it: police cruisers, headlights flaring like saviors in the darkness, converging from every direction. "Keep your heads down," he shouted, his voice ringing with authority amidst the turmoil. The cry of officers melded with the sirens, confusion spiraling as they struggled to process the fleeing car. But were they there to help? Or to bring even more chaos upon them? Leo, brave yet frightened, gazed up at him, eyes wide. "Did we make it?" The millionaire's chest tightened, a storm of thoughts crashing inside him. They were not yet safe. But in that instant, he felt something else: hope. It coursed through him, igniting every flicker of resolve he had left. "We did it," he said softly, looking out at the gathering crowds of onlookers, many glancing in their direction, fear mixed with curiosity. We're going to be okay. I promise. We'll make sure of it," the woman added, determination flooding her voice as she squeezed Leo's hand. As they rolled to a stop, he took a breath, his heart still pounding, feeling the weight of a million decisions that had finally led them here. They had fought, they had survived. As they stepped out of the car and into the chaos of the world, a wrap of camaraderie blossomed between them. This moment forged a bond. They had grappled with darkness and emerged into the light of possibility. The police surrounded them, ready to escort them away, glances questioning but not accusatory. The shadows had been vanquished for this moment, but the journey to safety was just beginning. As they were enveloped by officers who would help lead them to safety, he cast one last glance back at the stolen moment, the dance that had ignited everything, and felt the warmth bloom within him. "Leo," he said, kneeling once more. "We're going to change this together." And standing shoulder to shoulder, they set their sights on a new beginning. Hope flickered, real and strong, a promise woven between them that carried the scent of redemption. The sun, peeking through the clouds, glimmered above the chaos around them, illuminating the way forward. But just before they disappeared into the clamor of the crowd, he pulled Leo in tight, catching a firefly of courage in the boy's eyes. "This is just the start," he whispered, a silent vow echoing between them, for they had danced with shadows, but now, they would light a new path. And as the fading echoes of chaos settled behind them, they stepped into a world alive with promise, thankful for every hard-earned moment they now would embrace. You need to subscribe now to stay connected for the incredible journey ahead. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Flood the comments section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories. And don't wait even one more second, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Together, let us spread the magic.